This is The Clash, where the real world clashes with a true Christian worldview. Join former professional wrestler Chris Whaley, known as the Masked Saint, who is an author, pastor, and teacher that brings his wrestling skills into the squared circle and tackles real-life issues. Along with Jeff Dixon, best-selling author, internationally known teacher, leader, and pastor who is not afraid to tackle the tough issues of the world we live in. Together they form a tag team of wisdom in The Clash.
Welcome to The Clash. I'm Chris Whaley and I'm joined by my co-host,
Jeff Dixon.
We are so thrilled that you guys have joined us again for The Clash. We call it The Clash because life tends to be an ongoing battle where the Christian worldview tends to be clashing with the world around us. Well, I'm going to tell you, today's show is going to be a little bit different because we want to introduce you to your host that you have here on The Clash. And I know Jeff. I've been friends with Jeff for over 25 years. So I want you to know Jeff, because there's some things you probably don't know about this guy that I know. So let's just get...
I'm the special guest?
Yes, you're
You
it.
gotta be kidding me.
Yeah,
Man,
you're the guest tonight.
We need a budget for this show. That's all I can tell you. We need a bigger budget for this show. I'm just... many apologies.
Yeah.
My mom will love this, though.
Okay.
My mom will love this, though.
Yeah.
We'll be on it, so.
Well, as I said, Jeff, I've known you over 25 years. I've been serving with you on staff here at the Church at 434 for almost a year now.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, without trying to blow your head up too big, that you are one of the most innovative pastors that I have ever known.
Wow.
So tell us about your family first,
Okay.
and then tell us about your journey into ministry.
Okay. My family, we are Orlando products, really, for the most part. But I'm married. I've got 3 kids. I've got, let me my count here. I've got 4 grandkids. As I say, 4 grandkids. I got 1 on the way. So let me hedge that. I've got 1 on the way, so we're very excited about that. And we are, we've all got pretty deep Florida roots, and this is kind of home for us. And so we've been able to grow up and grow a family here and do family life here. So that's been kind of exciting. And then my call to ministry came out of the Orlando area. I mean, I was just a kid that grew up in church and learned to sin in church like all other good little Christian kids did. And church was kind of an important part of our life growing up. My parents made that a priority. And so I kind of carried that through. And as a teenager, felt this tug at the heart. God wanted me to do something. I had no idea what it was. Couldn't have told you then anything about what I'm doing now. But was willing to at least say yes and engage it just a little bit. And then along the way, God has been very gracious to me and allowed me to do some things I never thought I would get a chance to do, including get to know you, which is great.
Yeah. Where'd you go to college?
Went to a few places. I went to Florida State University, so I'm a big Seminole fan, and ran track there. Came back. I ran here out of an Olympic Development Center out at Seminole Community College for a couple of years. Ended up finally graduating from the University of Central Florida. I mean, I just ran out of time, ran out of money, ran out of colleges. Right. And so I got there and then went to Southwestern Seminary in Fort Worth, where I picked up my master's degree. And so I'm degreed and educated. And,
Yeah, you're
one of those guys, yeah.
Well, Jeff, you are an internationally known speaker. Tell us about that. How'd that come about?
Well, it's been quite by accident. When we started the church that we're currently kind of has evolved into new names and other places, but back in 1993 when we started, that's when the internet was very much dial-up and running on hamster wheels, and you would hear those crazy noises, and God just put a group of people together and has blessed me with being able to have folks that have supported this ministry, been called to this ministry with passion, that had giftedness and talent. And so we were one of the first churches ever to be online. And so as a result of that, we were putting out multimedia worship resources, worship services, series, things to watch, listen to. And before we knew it, we were seen in 185 countries. Some countries we couldn't even pronounce their name.
Wow.
We think we covered most of the English-speaking countries. We started getting letters from all over the world. And that has just continued over the years where, it's always been amazing. Someone will walk into church one Sunday and they've come from another country. They're here in Orlando on vacation, and they come to worship with us because they heard us where they live and they're regular listeners or attenders online of the church ministry we're doing here at the church at 434. And so enough to get a reputation internationally. I get to talk with people from all over the world on some Disney podcasts and some things like that. And so, yeah, I mean, who knew? I'm a little Orlando boy. I guess did okay.
Yeah, I think you've done excellent. Well, I'm excited about all of it, but I'm really excited about this next part because you're a best-selling author. Your first book is entitled Key to the Kingdom.
Hmm.
And so tell us about the first book and how it came about, and the theme of it and all of that.
Okay. I like to try different things. I'm like everybody else who's watching. Everybody thinks they can write a book.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the same thing. And then I tried to write a book. I found out it's a little bit more work than I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But as I wrote 3 chapters, I had this brilliant idea, no doubt about it, a brilliant idea that mirrors real life. Actually, as a pastor, I had an opportunity to sit down with a Disney Imagineer with some of our staff. And the question we asked that day was a big question. We said, Disney, as storytellers, tell stories that people remember.
Mm-hmm.
I get the opportunity each week to tell the greatest story ever and a story that matters for eternity. And so the question we asked that day was, how can we become better storytellers? And so we had the opportunity to sit out at Disney's MGM Studios at the time, sit in one of the restaurants, go behind the scenes at some stuff. And he really began a conversation where he was just talking about the importance and the art of storytelling. And I think that for churches, for pastors, they ought to do that from time to time. And then it was an Orlando resource that we had, and so we took advantage of it. And I came away from that, and then as I was thinking about, well, what kind of book would I write? What do I know about? Well, I know about Jesus and love Jesus. I love Disney. Grew up in Orlando, knew the theme parks pretty well. Big Disney trivia fan, and so took that real life experience and kind of built a whole book around that. Mm-hmm. What if a pastor, through a wild series of events, to an Imagineer that knew and worked with Walt and Roy Disney, was given, in essence, the key to the kingdom, the Disney empire, to run and to take care of and to protect? What would that look like with a little bit of mystery and fun and reality mixed in with just a adventure thriller kind of thing? What would that look like? And so I knew it was a brilliant idea. I wrote 3 chapters up and have a publisher contact me and say, Jeff, we love this idea. How much of the book is written? I just started on it. How long would it take to get the rest of the book? 3 months. A year later, I gave them the book. And they were very patient with me. And the book did well. It sold. And then after it did sell, they came back and they said, we would love to have a sequel. Do you have another idea? And I said, of course I do. How much have you written? Well, a little bit. A year later, they finally had another book. And so it just kind of kept growing, and it just kind of kept spinning on itself. And all of a sudden I found out that people cared about the characters. I was having to learn to write. I'm learning to write in real time, though, because I didn't know anything about writing a book. Mm-hmm. And the next thing you know, I just kind of had a tiger by the tail. And so here we are a lot of years later, 14 years later, actually.
Wow.
Still writing Disney novels, among other things.
Right.
And they've done well, and they've given me the opportunity to meet people from, again, all over the world. Right. And share my faith through Disney storytelling, which has been a lot of fun.
Wow. So how many Kingdom books are there?
There are 5 novels currently in publication. 1 novella, which is a Christmas novella. Right. And there's another one coming this year. But one Christmas novella that was released last year. And then in January of this upcoming year, the 6th novel will be released by Magic Press called Saving the Magic Kingdom. Yeah. And yeah, so pre-orders are are happening now, and so I'm excited about that. I'm excited because they actually have the manuscript now, and so I'm done with that part of it, and so we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
I got to tell you, my favorite of your books, and I've read all your books, but my favorite is Kingdom and Chaos, which is about the President of the United States being abducted at Disney World. I mean, I could not put that down.
Yeah.
I mean, every day I'm embellished in that book until I got it finished.
Sure.
And because I had to find out what happened. And it was just a great book. That's my favorite. Okay. Now, you've also written something else too, didn't you? I know Rick Warren has a book called The Purpose-Driven Life.
Yeah.
Jeff Dixon has a book called
The Disney-Driven Life.
The Disney-Driven.
Sure.
What's that about?
I figured if Rick Warren could write a book, and it's a little book that people have heard of before, so I figured why not add to that? So I wrote The Disney-Driven Life. I also wrote a book called The Disney Code, and those are nonfiction books. Mm-hmm. And they really are tour guides that you can take into the Magic Kingdom here at Walt Disney World or Epcot, mm-hmm. and hear some details about the attractions that you're going into, but also it ties it back into some stories out about the history of Walt Disney himself, mm-hmm. how the parks were created, some of the inspiration for some of the things you experience, and then some life lessons that you can apply to your life, and hopefully with a bit of inspiration, a good dose of Jesus, and just some common sense kind of ways to live life. And so I wrote 2 nonfiction books that way, and they've been fun. That they did well as well. I mean, and so I've been very fortunate. Disney has become for me kind of that niche that I've been able to find an audience with, and so people will usually say, well, you want to write about something else besides Disney, and I'm thinking, well, why would I? Yeah. There's an audience there. There are people who like the characters, people who like the stories, and they're fun, and so for me, it's a great way to kind of entertain myself when I'm not busy in the throes of pastoring and leading a church. It's my hobby.
How? Well, I've got a bunch more questions, but we're going to take a break. Okay. And then after that, I've got to pick your brain about some other things too. Okay. And one of them might be a little bit uncomfortable. So I'll go ahead and warn you about that.
This is a good time to tune out and find another show. That's all I can tell you.
We'll be back in just a moment. Hey, thanks for watching The Clash. And Jeff, the holidays aren't too far away. You do know that, right?
I've heard that, yeah.
And you're not one of those people that waits till the last minute, are you?
No, I'm ahead of the game.
You're ahead of the game? Yeah. And I bet you our audience is ahead of the game. And I know that I don't want to buy junk. I want to buy something good, something that's entertaining, something that will keep my attention. I mean, just something that's pretty good. And would you know about anything?
I do. I'm aware of a cornucopia of gifts that are available for our audience to pick up. And that's why I use the word cornucopia.
I love that word. Yeah.
And I would suggest that they visit DixonOnDisney.com. Mm-hmm. That's a great place to start. And from there, you get sent to all sorts of different places. But, it's funny you mentioned that. I've written 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 novels. Mm-hmm.
You got a new one coming out, don't you?
Got one coming out in January, as a matter of fact. That would be number 6, called Saving the Magic Kingdom. You can pre-order it now, and if you pre-order it now, it's actually cheaper, and that helps get the distribution out in some of the stores that are out there. Awesome. I have 2 nonfiction Disney books that are out there. I have a novella that's out there, and according to the rumor mill, there's another Christmas novella that will be released at Thanksgiving.
How awesome is that?
Another Christmas story. Now, a novella is a book that wants to be a novel when it grows up, but it's a lot shorter because it doesn't take as long to write. All that's out there. All that's available. Again, as I said, a cornucopia. DixonOnDisney.com. Love for you to come. Love for you to shop. Tell your family. Tell your friends. And buy gifts for those people that you really love. Because if you really love them, you'll buy from that website. And if you don't love them, well, you won't.
Well, Jeff, how has the church reacted to you being an author about Disney? What's the church been like?
They're extremely tolerant. I mean, they
have to be tolerant.
Yeah, they're tolerant. They have me as a pastor.
Yeah.
I think they've been extremely supportive. Very, very kind, and generous, and I think they bought books and they buy books for the family as presents and things like that. And I mean, and they put up with a lot with me as pastor, so they don't mind too much, I don't think. And they give me the freedom. The church as a place to be, and a place where I actually am employed too, has always given me the freedom to be able to travel, do book events, and if I needed to be away for events, to try to do that. And I honor that. I'm not usually gone on a Sunday, but I mean, I get to spend a lot of time doing things that are related to the book because it relates back to ministry.
Right.
Because there has never been a moment where I've gone out to promote the book that anybody told me, well, you can't tell them that you're a pastor, or let's duck the God talk.
Yeah.
Anything but. It's very much like, let's bring this part into it. And the reason, Chris, is because, I mean, I really think as followers of God, we have the greatest story to tell.
Right.
And our life is a story. Each day, a new chapter, another page. And so all of our lives are an unfolding story. And so that's what I got a chance to do in a fictional form, in a book. I'm a storyteller. I'm a storyteller every day of the week, right? And so we all have a little bit of that in us. And so it gives me a chance to do that just with a crowd that's a little bit more interested maybe in some Disney history and some Disney stuff.
I love your description of the story part. And I'll tell you what, when I was in college, my mentor in college was Dr. Jeff Moody, who was the pastor of the First Baptist Church of West Palm Beach. He's the founder of Palm Beach Atlantic University. Just a wonderful guy. I took a class under him called homiletics. And, on the very first day of that class, I'll never forget, he said, guys, he said, what you need to do is to follow what Jesus did in reaching people. And he said, what did Jesus do? Jesus told stories. He captivated people with stories. And then he just went off on story after story after story that Jesus told. And that was one of the first things that just kind of drew me to Pastor Jeff Dixon when I heard you preach, is that you're able to take the gospel and to put it into a story way so that people are able to grasp the story so easily. They don't have to wonder what in the world you're saying, because you get that clarity through the stories that you tell. And
You're kind. I appreciate that.
Just a compliment to you. I have to know, how did you become so familiar with Disney World? I mean, I've lived here in the Orlando area for 24 years. I've been to Disney World I don't know how many times, but when I read your books, you have little intricacies there in those books that I'm just amazed. How does somebody know all of that? And then the next time we go to Disney World, I have to look some of this stuff up that I've read in your book. So how did you become so familiar with Disney World?
Well, I'm a child of the 60s. So I remember Sunday evenings sitting in front of a color television set at my grandparents' house with my other cousins, watching The Wonderful World of Color,
right,
or The Wonderful World of Disney, depending on which year, which variation of the show it was. And so I love those moments when Walt would come out and introduce it. And so as a kid, when they announced that they were building a Walt Disney World in Orlando, I mean, I was juiced. I was ready. I had the opportunity to go into the theme park before it opened. My dad worked for the city of Orlando. Was a public official, so we got to go in before the park opened up. So I saw Disney World before the gates were open, and it was magical one night. I still remember that night to this day. And again, grew up in Orlando, so raised my kids here. Like most kids coming out of high school, worked there at the Magic Kingdom when it was just the Magic Kingdom.
Wow, what did you do?
I was a character.
No.
So, I was, and I marched in parades, and so I was out there for a little short stint. And back in the day, you worked a lot of hours and didn't make a whole lot, but that was okay. It was fun.
Yeah.
Didn't even make a living at it, so it was good.
You going to tell us which character you were?
I was Goofy.
You were Goofy. Oh my goodness! How long did you do that?
No, not long. I mean, at some point, I think my dad's advice was, "Son, you need to get a real job."
So as a character, you got to go. There's like a city underneath Walt Disney World, isn't there?
In the Magic Kingdom there is, yeah.
Yeah.
The Tildor. Yeah, it's you know, they created it because in Disneyland, you know, Walt was all about storytelling, right? And it would always, it drove him nuts that you would break the image that you had, or the illusion you had created in Frontierland when you had an astronaut walking through it to get back to the break room.
Right.
I mean, it destroys the old Western look because you've got astronauts now walking around in Frontierland. And so the original plan for Orlando was never to have it be that way. And so the Magic Kingdom is actually built on the second level. When they dug out that big massive lake that's there, they just kept building it up. And so they built an entire underground network of tunnels that really does connect every land in the Magic Kingdom together. And so you can actually, you know, step off the set in Frontierland, walk through the tunnels and come up in Tomorrowland. Very efficient. I mean, they're able to move trash, money, goods, services. I mean, it really is an amazing place to go. It's an amazing place to visit. People pay big bucks there to take a tour so they can see it now. But when you're working out there, it's fascinating. And so there is a whole underground city, if you will, below the Magic Kingdom where they've got everything from restaurants to barbershops to locker rooms to, you know, break rooms, whatever functional stuff they need is there. And that's very real. I mean, I write about it in the book, so that it's almost like a featured character in a lot of books. It keeps showing up.
Right. Well, I've got to ask this, and I kind of prepared for you before we took a break. Disney has been in the news a lot, especially over the last 4 or 5 years, especially here in Florida, and especially with our governor, Ron DeSantis. And Jeff, I'll be honest, Disney has gotten a knock of being a little woke. So have you received any pushback from people because of all the wokeness of Disney that has come out?
Sure. Oh yeah. The Christian community, you know, is wildly irritated at Disney, as they should be. And I look at that. I really look at that. I've always had a philosophy in life: always boycott a boycott. And so I'm not real big on that because if I were to tell you I'm going to boycott something, you know, there's no way I can make that consistent in my faith, because it's just the way our culture works. I mean, I can say I stand against this, but then, you know, lo and behold, you do a deep dive and this company supports this. I mean, so you never win at that.
Right.
So I think instead what you have to do is you have to be honest. And so I'm really upfront and honest. And Disney has lost its way and it can't find a new story to save its life right now. They fail to answer the question, what would Walt do? They don't answer that question anymore. And Disney can't seem to find anything new to do. What they tend to do is they keep doing reruns. They keep remaking all their classic animated features into live action features because the technology is there. But when it comes to new ideas, I mean, it's been a long time since Disney came up with a new idea.
Right.
Even if you look at the current administration of Walt Disney World, Bob Iger's a rerun.
Yeah.
He retired.
Yeah.
They brought him back.
Right. Because
Because the guy in the middle was the guy after him was a train wreck. But at the same time, what you have to remember, if you look at the company, every company has leadership, and Disney has not been any different than that. Walt obviously was the guiding force, but they spun out of control after Walt was gone until Michael Eisner came in. Michael Eisner ushered in the Disney decade. Michael Eisner did a great job until Frank Wells died. And then Michael spun out of control and Disney lost its way again. Iger came along as a great acquisition guy. And Disney gobbled up everything and became the largest entertainment empire in the world. But in some ways, I believe Iger's days are done. We live in a political landscape where I think he wants to be a politician. He's given great leadership in the past. I don't think Disney is remembering their audience very well these days. And if you forget your audience, which Walt never did, it also will ding you in other places. I think it's really hurt them in the entertainment end of the world. Theme park wise, they have continued to be one of the leaders across the world in theme park and the product they put out. But even that has changed. And so I think Disney is going through a change again. They're going through another valley, if you will, where they're going to have to do a little mountain climbing to come out of it. Because again, they do have a quality way to tell stories. They do have characters, and they do have the opportunity to do some amazing things, but they've got to remember their audience. And I think that is a tragedy for anybody in any industry, to let the voices of a few people who are loud dictate what you need to be doing. And I think if you walk out into a theme park and you kind of move among the crowd of the theme park, what I've discovered is everybody's there for a little bit that Disney magic.
Right.
People who have forgotten the Disney magic are sometimes the people who've led the company, and that's tragic.
That is
And it's you don't give them a pass on that. You don't defend that, and I never defend it. I simply try to call balls and strikes, and I think that they've messed it up, and I'm hoping they get it right. And in the meantime, I'm going to enjoy the best parts of it and the good parts of it, and I'll pick and choose, and I'll be like everybody else. I'll use a lot of discretion, and hopefully my discerning spirit will get me where I need to go and keep me out of the high weeds, and so far it has.
Well, I can tell you, there's no wokeness in Jeff Dixon's books. That's for sure.
Now they may put you to sleep, but then you'll wake back up.
They will not put you to sleep. A lot of people have just lost the art of reading. They say the average young man who graduates from high school, after graduating from high school, 88% never read another book. And I just want to encourage you to read. Of course, you ought to be reading the Bible every day, obviously. But there's some great things out there to read. And Jeff Dixon's books on Disney, the Key to the Kingdom and all the other Kingdom books, are phenomenal, and you will love them. So which book is your favorite and why?
My favorite book is always the last one I did, because I'm now done doing it. And I like the story. I mean, for me, I've been very fortunate. I've created some characters that people seem to like, carried some characters through each book that people have liked, in some ways. Had an opportunity where even now, after 14 years, the very first book is going to be coming out this next year as an Audible book. And I have a young lady who is an actress who is doing a fantastic job with the narration piece of it. She's bringing it to life. I'm getting to hear it again for the first time with characters and the right inflection in the voices and stuff like that. And so I'm very excited about that coming out. And there's another gentleman who has asked for the opportunity to step in and be able to write a book that brings the characters from my books into it. And he's going to be doing a whole series of books on the Disney cruise lines.
Wow.
And so the first one will be coming out this next year as well, called See You Real Soon, that I'm a co-author in.
Oh, wow.
But letting him kind of take and run with the predominant story, and I'm coming back with the stuff that the characters I've created would be doing or not doing. And so it's been fun to kind of create this world of just Disney-related things and have people care about it.
Well, we're running out of time, but before we end this, you got to tell us, how do we get your books if we want to?
Hopefully, any of the finer bookstores will carry these books. And if not, ask for them by name. But if you're really digging around, I mean, obviously Amazon, where so many people go for books, I mean, you can find them all out there. We're currently actually in the process of re-releasing the first 5 novels, and so they get updates with new covers and everything else, and that's all going to be happening over this next year. And so there's a lot going on in the Key to the Kingdom, Dixon on Disney World. And so just check it out, and then you can contact us if you got any questions about it.
And obviously at the end of this program, you'll see Jeff's email address, you'll see my email address. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to send us a message. Let us hear about it. It's been a great show, Jeff. Thank you. And I'm glad that people got to know the Jeff Dixon that I know. Yeah. And, Disney's in some battles, and I know you people out there in some battles. So just remember this. When you're in that battle, don't tap out.